Welcome to Quirky French podcast, the podcast that helps you speak more confidently, feel more focused, and be more in control of your French learning journey. Prêt? C'est parti! Bonjour, bonjour, bienvenue. Hello and welcome to Quirky French podcast, the podcast where you're going to be learning ways and methods to ace the art of conversation in French. My name is Naima. I'm your host and I am super excited because this is the very first episode and it's my very first time podcasting as well. So super exciting. It's also very nerve-wracking, but mainly exciting. But yeah, let's get right to it. Let's get started. Let's go. Okay, so what is the podcast about? What is Quirky French all about? So I'm going to be talking with you every week and I'm going to be sharing things that you can do, methods, strategies, tips and tricks that you can use to overcome your fear of speaking French. And this is what I specialize in as a language coach. I help my students find their confidence in French conversation skills and social interactions. So we're going to put the reading and the writing aside, and we're really going to concentrate on conversation and interactions. So speaking, listening, and really connecting with people. So I've got 3 areas to work on. The first one is all about mindset work. You're going to find ways and develop techniques to get over your fears, but it's not just going to be about the fears. We're also going to tackle some mental blocks that could be preventing you from reaching fluency. The second area is all about improving your learning methods. You're going to learn how to learn, because it's one thing to study a language, but if you don't know how to learn effectively, you're not going to be making much progress. So this area is all about learning how to work smarter, not harder. The third area is all about finding your style, cultivating your quirks and personality, and developing your voice. It's all about developing and becoming who you want to become in French so that you can make an impact and connect with people. And so, most of my students, when they come to me, they tell me that, long story short, they're scared to talk. And this sometimes comes up in conversations in different forms and it's expressed in different ways. But that's really what it boils down to. It's that fear of talking, fear of making mistakes, fear of being perceived and judged negatively. All of that has a name and it's called foreign language anxiety. Now that's jargon. I'm going to be talking about speaking anxiety. I'm going to be referring to that term, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're an anxious person. You could be a pretty confident person in your day-to-day life and still experience that form of anxiety when you're put in that particular situation, in real life conversation. It could be nerves, it could be stress, fear. It could also show up in invisible ways, like just wanting to avoid the interaction altogether, so you don't feel anxious because you simply don't engage in that conversation. But it's still a form of speaking anxiety if it makes you avoid conversation altogether. Or it could be something like you are in the middle of a conversation, but the person says something, you miss a word, and then you get completely stuck and you end up, living in your head and missing out on the rest of the conversation because you're stuck and obsessing over that word. And that's another form of speaking anxiety. And a typical example would be something that my students quite often tell me. They come to me because they've traveled to France and it was really disappointing for them because they'd been learning French for quite a while and they had rehearsed that sentence that they were going to say at the restaurant to order coffee. They walk up to the waiter, ask for coffee, and then what they didn't expect is for the waiter to actually reply and say something back. So it's like, it doesn't matter how much you rehearse in your head, you think you're well rehearsed, but actually when it comes to dealing with a live situation, you panic, you freeze, you don't know what to do, you basically freak out. And the problem with that is that it doesn't matter how much French you know in theory. If you do not tackle that behavior, you're never going to get to that realistic and effective fluency, because you're never going to be able to have a conversation in full and really be present in those situations. So it's really important to tackle this. And that's also the reason why I have those 3 areas. We'll be talking about the fear of speaking, but we'll also talk about ways to develop your learning strategies, other mental blocks, and how you can use your quirks to be yourself and to really show up as yourself during those conversations. So over the course of, the podcast, we'll study what that speaking anxiety looks like. And so I also want to specify that this podcast is not designed for any particular level. So I'm not going to be teaching any French per se. Those 3 axes are going to be tools that you can use all along your learning journey. If you're a beginner, you're going to develop the strategies, the learning habits, and the mindset right from the start. And the podcast is going to give you a considerable head start in your learning journey. And if you're further along, you may have come to the realization that, you've been learning the language for quite some time. And yet when it comes to actual communication in real setting, well, something's missing and all of that confidence is gone. And if that's the case, then the podcast is going to be the place for you to reassess, kind of go back and see what may have been missing from your learning so far. Right, so I want to tell you a little bit about myself and what I do as a language coach and what I offer, but I'll tell you a little bit about this, episode after episode. And just for this very first episode, I just want to tell you a bit about why I started Quirky French podcast. Well, the first thing is I'm a little quirky and shy myself. I'm an introvert. I actually have anxiety and I'm also socially awkward. But I'm also living proof that you can be shy and you can be successful in your language journey. And I really wanted to convey that message and create a space where you can become confident, you can become fluent, and you can still be yourself. And also, I called it Quirky French because I really believe that it's important to find unique and quirky ways to reach your language goal. There's a lot of traditional learning methods out there and they work for a lot of people, but not for everybody. And I really want to create a space where you can grow as a learner in ways that work for you. I don't want to share tips on how you can come across confident or how you can look confident. I really just want to share with you ideas, suggestions, food for thought that can help you grow and nurture your own confidence. I really think that it's about finding ways that you can continue to be yourself. And I think you can take charge of your learning by finding and developing creative ways and quirky methods that work for you. And so every week I'm going to be sharing everything I know. I'll share my experience as a language learner and as a language coach. And my key idea is that your quirks are exactly what you need to maximize. Your quirks are what make you unique. You should use them to leverage your learning. They're like your most valuable asset, your secret weapon in this journey. And so you'll find that I'm not so much going to try to remove the fear. Instead, I'm going to help you learn more about yourself, and I'm going to help you work with what makes you unique, and you're going to use your quirks to reach fluency in your own authentic way. It's all about understanding that you don't have to work for the language. You just need to let the language work for you, and you need to let it showcase who you are. And then at the end of the day, you'll just realize that the fear doesn't even matter anymore. Okay, so if you like the sound of that, you can like and subscribe to my podcast and be a part of the community. Let's grow together, let's learn together and support each other. So you can head on to my website, quirkyfrench.com, and you'll have access to exclusive content. You'll be able to join my weekly group coaching sessions where you'll get to discuss with me live, ask questions, get support, practice your French. All of that for free, by the way. So yeah, I think this is episode 1, all done. Wow. But yeah, enough talking for now. How about you guys introduce yourselves in the comment section? What's your little quirk? Or what's your biggest fear? I'll make sure to reply to all of you. And also, whatever your quirk or your personal challenge, there's going to be some content coming up for you, so watch this space. Okay, well, that's me done. I look forward to catching up with you in the comment section, and I look forward to speaking with you next week. Okay, keep learning, keep growing, and keep it quirky. Salut tout le monde. Bye bye.